Hey, hey, hey. Greetings, y'all. I hope that you are doing well amidst everything going on in this wild, wild world. Um, Welcome to The Paper Plane. The Paper Plane is a podcast created and hosted by myself, Colin Masashi Rohahio Ehara, where I interview people I am blessed and honored to share community with, asking them about a book or books that have had a transformative impact on their lives. And in a society where literacy rates are steadily declining, our attention spans and critical consciousness are under attack, and a growing number of podcasts hosted by cishet men consciously or unconsciously champion expressions of masculinity that come at the expense of women, femmes, female body folks, LGBTQIA, Two Spirit Plus, and especially BIPOC people. This space imperfectly aims to operate as a counter narrative to those things. The paper plane is a space that intends to highlight the dire importance of relationships, community, dialogue, perpetual learning, honest expression as art, art as honest expression, freedom for literacy, and literacy for freedom. It speaks to planes of existence attached to the act of reading, but also as a metaphor for the flights we take as we sit in what Ta-Nehisi Coates calls a one-way interface as readers and how these journeys shape us. Today's guest is someone I have known for almost a decade. We were both teachers and deans at sibling schools in Richmond, California. She at Aspire Richmond Technology Academy Elementary, and I at Richmond Cal Prep 6 through 12. We were also members of an Asian American and Pacific Islander affinity group where we got to know each other and build community with other AAPI educators in Aspire Public Schools Bay Area region. Our children attend the same daycare, and she is currently the principal of Richmond Technology Academy, where my eldest daughter goes to school. I am so beyond honored to be in community with this incredible sister, colleague. And today it is a sincere gift to be discussing her late and brilliant brother's award-winning book of short stories, Afterparties. Samantha So Lam is a proud Cambodian American born and raised in Stockton, California, and now living in the Bay Area. The daughter of refugees who survived the Cambodian genocide, she carries her family's legacy of resilience into everything she does. She began her career as an elementary school teacher and went on to become a school principal, dedicating her life to empowering students and building inclusive school communities. She's also a devoted wife and mother of three boys. And yes, she's the sister of the late Anthony Visna So, acclaimed author of Afterparties and a New York Times bestseller. And it is with that that I am so happy to welcome Sam So Lamb to the paper plane. Thank you so much for being here, Sam. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Hey, Colin.
So nice to see you. How's getting ready for I know like when you're a school leader, the summer isn't really the summer and like, in the same way that it is like when you're a teacher and yeah, I'm just curious kind of like how summer has been for you. How's it feel kind of getting ready for, a new school year in August?
This is my fourth year as a principal. And
Congratulations.
I just had my third baby. So it's been a little bit
Congratulations.
hectic and crazy.
Yeah.
And I think after you have a kid, after you have a baby, you kind of get humbled again. Like you just kind of
Yeah.
get like, oh yeah, like, you can't do it all. You got to slow down. And it's been nice. It's been nice to have our final addition to our family. It's
Hmm.
been a transition to figure out what my new identity is, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that short story.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so many congratulations. And yeah, again, just thank you so much for being here. Yeah, we're going to, and I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask before we started recording, but I just want to make sure that I'm pronouncing your brother's middle name correctly.
Yeah. It's Visna.
Visna.
So
Okay.
Visna. So Vesna means lucky.
Mm,
Yeah. Or fortune.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So, Anthony Visna So, February 20th, 1992 to December 8th, 2020, was an American writer. His short stories were described by the New York Times as crackling, kinetic, and darkly comedic, and often drew from his upbringing as a child of Cambodian immigrants. So died from an accidental drug overdose in 2020, and his debut book, a short story collection entitled Afterparties, was published in 2021. Afterparties was an instant New York Times bestseller. It was the winner of the National Book Critics Circle's John Leonard Prize for Best First Book. It was the winner of the Farrow Grumley Award for LGBTQ fiction. It was named a Best Book of the Year by the New York Times, NPR, Washington Post, LA Times, Kirkus Reviews, New York Public Library, Chicago Public Library, Harper's Bazaar, Time, Maureen Corrigan, Fresh Air, Boston Globe, and The Atlantic. Afterparties is a vibrant story collection about Cambodian American life, immersive and comic yet unsparing, that offers profound insight into the intimacy of queer and immigrant communities, seamlessly transitioning between the absurd and the tender-hearted, balancing acerbic humor with sharp emotional depth. Afterparties offers an expansive portrait of the lives of Cambodian Americans. As the children of refugees carve out as the children of refugees carve out radical new paths for themselves in California, they shoulder the inherited weight of the Khmer Rouge genocide and grapple with the complexities of race, sexuality, friendship, and family. A high school badminton coach and failing grocery store owner tries to relive his glory days by beating a rising star teenage player. Two drunken brothers attend a wedding after party and hatch a plan to expose their shady uncle's snubbing of the bride and groom. A queer love affair sparks between an older tech entrepreneur trying to launch a quote unquote safe space app and a disillusioned young teacher obsessed with Moby Dick. And in the sweeping final story, a 9-year-old child learns that his mother survived a racist school shooter. The stories in After Parties, and this is a quote from George Saunders, powered by So's skill with telling detail, are like beams of wry, affectionate light falling from different directions on a complicated, struggling, beloved American community. And so Sam, so this, this book is a powerful testament to your brother's life and legacy and very special to you and your family for obvious reasons. As a distinguished guest here on the paper plane, what quote unquote flights or journeys would you say that this book has taken you on?
It's been a really long journey. I think I had told you before, like I've done a couple of talks about this. I think that when he first passed away in 2020, I couldn't even read. Well, first of all, we didn't even know the book was coming out as a
Wow.
family. He had mentioned it. He was like, "Oh yeah, and you have to understand, he's like in the middle.
Mm,
Um, he's the baby of my immediate family, and then my dad has three sisters, and then they all have kids, and so we grew up in a really tight knit family. Lots of
mm.
cousins. We have 10
Yep.
on my dad's side, and he's a baby, right? And he's on the younger half, and so I think like there's lots of themes of having like different personalities or different intersections to your identities in the book, and it's like perfect. I mean, that's what how he was, right? Like how he showed up, and he kind of just was like really um like, yeah, I got a book, it's like, oh, okay,
Nonchalant.
yeah. He's like,
Mm,
I got a book, and
mm,
like, oh, okay. And he's like, it's coming, it's gonna come out soon. And he was very like, like, it's gonna be good. It'll be good. It's gonna be good. And
love that.
we all were just like, okay, whatever. Like we kind of just like wrote him off because, he's the baby. Like, okay, sure.
Mm,
Um, so it was kind of weird, like how it all happened, because he passed away on December 8th, and literally the book came out like 2 weeks later.
wow.
So you knew it wasn't a suicide, like you knew you knew it was an accident, that
Mhm.
he didn't do this on purpose, because he had like all these things lined up.
Yeah.
And so like when he passed, I found myself kind of like thrust into like, not only am I like putting together this funeral, I'm grieving, and now like I'm all of a sudden like like a poster child for his book, right?
Wow.
And so I'm like, I had to do some readings, and there's still a lot of like decisions that we still had to make about the book, like going through all like the edits, the final edits,
Mhm.
all of that stuff. And I remember having to go through and like ensure that all of the Cambodian words were correct,
Mhm.
were correct, like pronounced correctly, and are written correctly in the book, things like that. Um, so when it came out, um, and I read it, the publisher Echo had sent us the copy, like like shipped it super fast just because they were, one of the first meetings, they were just like, "Oh, you didn't read this yet?" And I was like, "No, like I've never
Mhm.
seen like this book."
Yeah. Wow.
And so when we first read it, it like floored us
I can't
because
imagine.
it I think at the time, like I was just kind of like, I think I felt betrayed,
Mm.
because every detail of the book is some sort of family story, or
Yeah.
like every single character is a person in my family.
Mm.
Whether it is actually named, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this is the person. Like I think Vess in Human Differences, I think that's him. And
Mm.
then for sure the sister in that story is me.
Mm.
And then like the different characters, some people are named after like people that we know and like it
Yeah.
represents the character, and then some people are like slightly changed, like he changed the name a little bit. And
Mm.
then of course the stories are very, very like dear. And so when
Mm.
we read it, we were just like kind of like WTF. Like
Wow.
like
Mm.
how could you do this to us? Like
Mm.
put our business out there,
Like
didn't tell us.
air our dirty laundry
Yeah,
to the world.
didn't tell us, and then die.
Oh my
And
goodness.
not like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like die and then not like be here to like explain yourself.
Mm.
And
Oh wow.
so
Mm.
I think, I didn't read the book fully until last year. Like last year I
Oh,
had to get
okay.
ready to do a spoken event at Pomona College, and I was like, okay, I gotta actually read this.
Yeah.
And so I like got a hotel room by myself like for a
Hmm.
whole day, and like I just like read it from like front to back in like a
Wow.
day. Um, and it was hard, like it was
Yeah.
really, really hard. Um, yeah, I think, yeah, like I don't know, I don't even know where to start, like on like
Yeah.
which story resonates the most, but I think like
Mm.
as we go down, we can get into those things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you familiar with Rebecca Kwong, R.F. Kwong, the writer?
No.
She wrote a book called Yellowface and also one called Babel.
Oh, you were telling me about that book.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
interestingly enough, like what you just shared a moment ago about like, this feeling of like you even said betrayal and like for feeling exposed. There's this huge part where it within Yellowface specifically where like there's a lot of kind of talking about, the ways that writers can do that and like almost have like, these like fictional autobiographies, and it's called fiction.
yeah,
It's pulled so much from, lived experiences, whether it's,
yeah,
the writer's own or somebody else's.
yeah.
Like it can border on like, is this actually fiction? Um,
It, yeah. I mean, so I'll give you an example. I think the one that like hurts my whole family the most is
mm,
Chuck's Donuts, right?
okay.
Um, when we were growing up, my aunt used to own a diner called Chubby's Diner, and
Mm,
it was a 1950s like dive diner. Like you walk in, it's got like the leather upholstery. It has like the old-fashioned milkshakes and the hamburgers, and it's like a diner.
yeah.
And so she used to own that, and then my three aunts used to run it, and then my uncle was the chef. And so the diner's called Chubby's Diner,
Mm.
Chuck's Donuts. And so I'm like, dude, you really like you're
Mm.
gonna really? So
Yeah.
like that was interesting. And so the characters, it's about the two little girl, not little girls, but the two teenage girls with their
Yeah.
mom and
Yep.
um, it and how women can carry the families, right?
Mhm.
And I think like a lot of cultures can relate to that. It's not just, I think that's the beauty about the book is that you don't have to be Cambodian to really relate to that book. Like
Mm. Yeah.
when I was at Pomona College, like so many different people, just like their take on the book and like what resonated with them. I think that's what makes his writing so good is that
Mhm.
like you don't have to be Cambodian, you don't have to be queer, you don't have to be
Mhm.
young or old or first gen
Yeah.
or whatever. You still like love the book or love the
Yeah.
stories.
Yep.
But the Chuck's Donuts, my oldest aunt passed away in a car accident went 30 years ago. And she had never found out that her husband was cheating on her
Oh wow.
and had like a whole nother family. We found out afterwards, right, as a family. And the one of the he and I feel like he has like all these little Easter eggs in the book. It's
Mm.
very like one of the Easter eggs is the metaphor around like when at the end when the random guy that comes in and he just gets beaten to death,
Mm.
um, he's a deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's like borderline genius, like kind of psycho writing genius. Like
Mm.
there's like what? So like when I read it, I was just like, oh my God,
Wow. I can't imagine what that was like for you. Yeah, going through that. And and in line with some of this, right? So
it's coming back.
yeah, like in line with, this and thinking about so yeah, just so many different things happening at once within your brother's writing, right? And so reading After Parties feels like simultaneously like a celebration and a confrontation with family, memory, identity, grief, so many different emotions, right? As you just named. And then as Anthony's sister, like how did it, and you're already speaking to this a lot, but like how did it feel to see these parts of your shared history, Cambodian American experience, like rendered with such specificity, irreverence, love, and all the other emotions you were describing?
Yeah, I think um another story that kind of speaks to that and the generational trauma um is Molly Molly Molly.
Mm.
And it's interesting because when I talk to folks about the book, Molly 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 is not a favorite. Like people really, really enjoy Chuck's Donuts. They really enjoy um, the badminton story. I forget what that one. I forget the name of that one, but anyways, that one's my least favorite. By the way, it is true that the customer's car got stolen from the shop one time.
Okay.
So that's a true story.
Well, I was
But it
just
was
like,
returned.
I was like,
The
is
car
any
was
of this
returned.
fiction?
Huh?
I was like, is any of this fiction or is this just like a memoir?
It is a little bit like a memoir, and that's the funny part. It's just like you read it and you're like,
Mhm.
it makes you question like what's real and what's not.
Mm.
But
Wow.
anyways, uh, Molly 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 is not one of the favorites, but Molly Molly Molly, really really makes my heart break still. Like when I
Mm.
read it.
Yeah.
I think around like that generational sandwich. Me and you, like you and I, we're getting probably what in our 40s, like going into our 40s, in our
I'm in my
40s.
40s. Yeah, I'm all up in there. Are you almost there?
I'm almost there. I'm
Okay.
38, or
Okay,
I'm
okay.
about to be 38. But
Okay.
we have like our parents and then we have our kids and then like we're like sandwiched in between, right? And Molly, like about her, her great aunt, right?
Hmm.
And she can't take care of herself, but and being she has a caretaker, right, who's her niece, um but she's she's old and she has dementia, and she all she cares about is the memory of her dead daughter, right?
Mm.
um and so I mean that's my grandma. Like my grandma's almost 90,
Wow.
and the burden that my aunts have of taking care of her.
Mm.
um and I think there's like a nod in that book around, my oldest aunt had passed away and my grandma's still missing her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so right now, like I read that story and it's still hitting certain
Hmm.
ways.
I'm sure.
um there's like interfamily conflict right now about around that, like as your parents get older, your grandparents get older, and like the stress of caretaking, and the trauma that comes with it. And it's interesting because like my dad and my aunts, they all came when they were in their teens,
Hmm.
right? And like when they came over, they didn't have they didn't have time, they didn't have like a childhood. They basically starved to death for 4 years,
Mm.
and then they came over and then they had to jump in and start working and
Yeah.
make a life for themselves,
Yeah.
like the American dream.
Hmm.
And um they didn't have time to process anything. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so that trauma, how does that play down? Like, how does that come from me, like to me, right? Or
Hmm.
to my brother or to any of the characters? What I love about the book is that it's not really about that generation. Like if you kind of think about like the killing fields or first they killed my father,
Hmm.
it's about the genocide. It's about people's experience in the genocide. This
Yes.
is not about the genocide. It's
Yeah.
about the aftermath of the genocide,
Hmm.
right? And it's about the first generation that kind of like borders between, like, am I Cambodian or am I American? And what does that
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I mean, it's making me think of like a couple things. I mean, I really love, what you said earlier, just about like you don't necessarily need to be, Cambodian or queer or young or old, like, to kind of connect to a lot of pieces around this because, so much of what I was thinking about while reading this, but also like, and just in what you were mentioning was like thinking about how there's a lot of like literature, memoir, even fiction, not tons, right? But like about Japanese American incarceration during World War II. But there's not a whole lot about like its impacts on like generations after. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and just like thinking about like yeah, like what can be done to, I'm like thinking about specifically like AAPI communities that have been impacted by war, militarization, attempted genocide, um, and like
Yeah.
in processing, those inherited histories. And I guess maybe like, do you how do you see? Because you were talking about, like this amazing way that like the book is being looked at by like students at Pomona, and I'm wondering like how do you maybe think that like your brother's writing has, potentially helping young Cambodian Americans of like, your generation, younger generation, potentially process all of these things.
It's funny. I think that um although it's about Cambodian Americans, I don't actually know if a lot of young Cambodian Americans have read it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what's even more is like Stockton, which this book is all based in Stockton. The Stockton Record has never wrote about it. I
Wow, are you
actually
serious?
so Yeah, when he first passed away, he was like blowing up. He was in the Washington Post and the
Hmm.
New York Times and the New Yorker, Vulture, all these things, all these like huge media, you know, uh huge, just huge articles.
Yeah.
And I had reached out to the Stockton Record and asked them like, would you guys like to like? Here's my I'm having mom brain right now, but
Oh, you're
when
good.
you pass away and you put it in the newspaper,
Oh,
what is that?
obituary?
Yeah, obituary.
Yeah, yeah.
Like here's his obituary. Would you guys like to run it? Like he's born in Stockton, wrote this book, like putting Stockton on the map.
Yeah.
Like, would you like to do this? And they were like, they said no. And I was
That's
like,
crazy.
I'm in the New York Times, so
Yeah,
you
like
know. So, but anyways, what I mean to say about that is like I don't really know if a lot of like I would love to have more Cambodian American like younger folks read this.
yeah,
But those who have, like it it touches my heart because
yeah,
I've had people reach out and they've shared like, oh, your brother is like has changed the way
yeah,
changed the way I think and like helped me heal and made me feel heard and seen,
mhm,
like that
yeah.
sense of belonging. Um, and so it's been nice, and I've heard it from a lot of folks, not just from Cambodian Americans, but from a lot of like Asian American young folks, queer folks, even like
I'm
lots
sure.
of people, you
Yeah.
know.
Um, what was the name of the Stockton newspaper?
The Stockton Record.
Stockton Record. On the record, y'all hella shitty and fucking up for that one.
Exactly.
And then the other thing I'll share too is
Yeah,
that,
you get my back, Colin.
off top, you already know. But the other thing I want to share too is that my homie, who was a guest on this pod, Professor Lisa Ong, who teaches English at Diablo Valley College, where I teach. She has taught, sections of this book, and also shared with me that one of her good friends, who's Cambodian American, that she went to UC Berkeley with, who's a teacher, was like really devastated when he essentially felt like he had found his favorite, kind of writer, and then found out that he had, also kind of died right at like in the same period of time. But
Yeah.
yeah, the ripples are very, very real, and the impact is huge. And
I
you were,
it
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I I can just imagine, like, you know, the way that I feel. I mean, I'm just gonna like this is just a little bit about me, but I don't actually care to read books like this.
Mm,
Just because I think like I have a really stressful job. I got three kids. Like I just want to read
hmm
something dumb, you know? Like I don't want to think.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine like if I found a book that I like love, like for example, I've read all of the A Court of Thorn books.
Mm,
Yes, I love fantasy, like
mm,
the romantasy books.
nice.
But I would imagine like if I found out the author passed away and like never got to write again, I'd be devastated, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just it and so like for him, his book came out after he passed, and two books came out after he passed, right? So that was the crazy part about that whole time.
Mm. Um, you're making me think of like when I first became a parent when I was born. And just like everything was feeling so overwhelming. I was like, all I can really do right now is like watch The Office. Like I can't handle
Yeah.
anything that's super heavy. I just need like, um, but
No, for real. For real.
yeah,
Like my Kindle, last year I was so stressed out. My Kindle, I read 50 books that year.
wow, that's
50 romance
amazing.
books.
Yes, I love it. Um, well, kind of, circling back to, you're talking about intergenerational things and like, connections and also potential disconnections. So, in the book, your brother writes, I guess that's another part of our generational difference. You believe we deserve answers, that there's always some truth to be uncovered. And so, as a mother, an educator, wondering how do you imagine after parties might be used in classrooms, youth programs, and or how it might inform, if at all, like how you raise your three boys. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. I think that when you become a parent, one, you think about how do you interrupt generational trauma,
Hmm.
right? Like I still have a very strained, but like I love my parents, but the relationship that we have is strained, right?
Hmm.
Because like I said before, they don't have like they didn't have any way to express emotion when they
Yeah.
first came, like, or
Yep.
even like talk about or even understand what had happened to them over the four
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
And so
They didn't
like
have
all of these like
SEL
layered,
workshops,
right?
right? Like
But
you're
like
piloting.
yeah, yeah. In my admin chats, right?
Hmm.
But like they like PTSD, their PTSD still comes out in a lot of different ways, right? Like my dad, like when I had my last son, my dad's been in business for 37 years since I was born. He's had his shop, and he was supposed to graduate he was supposed to graduate, not did I say graduate, I'm sorry, he's supposed to retire.
Mm-hmm. It's kind
He's
of a
supposed to
that's kind of a
retire.
graduation.
Yeah, move on. But he was supposed to retire, and when he found out that I was pregnant, my dad was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna retire anymore." And I was like, I don't, I can't, I'm not even gonna like begin to try to like understand why. But the other day it dawned on me like why he didn't retire. He he wants to make sure that he still has enough money in the bank, which he does. He actually doesn't believe in banks because in the
Mhm.
genocide, all the money just
Yeah.
like, the money was not money anymore.
Yeah.
But he wanted to make sure that my last son was going to be okay. And I'm like, Dad, he's gonna be fine. I work. Like my
Hmm.
husband works. Like, but that like, that trauma, he still has that trauma and
Yeah.
he can't stop.
Hmm.
And I think like that's the piece that I want to bring, like why I'm in education and why like I do what I do, because uh, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Like we have so many kids, so many families that go through whatever traumas that they go through, right? Like right now, what's happening in LA with like
Hmm.
ICE and just breaking up families, breaking up, incarcerating kids, like that I can't even imagine, right? Like I can't
Horrific.
even imagine like my own child, teenager, being, profiled and
Hmm.
taken
Hmm.
for 3 days,
Kidnapped.
kidnapped, yeah,
Mhm.
taken. And so I just like, how do you help kids, one, like understand themselves? If their parents aren't doing the work to interrupt trauma, how do you help them interrupt trauma? Because
Yep.
you have to interrupt it somewhere,
Hmm.
right? Like it's not going to stop until you get the tools and the resources to interrupt it.
Yeah.
And like right now, like I'm the interrupter. But if
Hmm.
I'm not the interrupter, then my children have to have those tools to be the interrupter,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's I think like the book does a really good job. Like I really um human development is a really good one that I think you could teach.
Mm.
I mean, maybe not to like, teenagers because of all the sex in it,
Mm.
but I think like that character, I think it's Vest, his name,
Yeah.
like represents kind of like that mid-20s, and then you're just like, I don't really know what to do with my life,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm
Yeah.
just kind of there in the
Mhm.
summertime in San Francisco, right? But then like there's these little things that I think it's his part, like there's like a partner and he's a older tech guy, right?
Mhm.
And there's just little things, and he's like, the tech guy's trying to make a safe space, but then it's not really safe, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And so like I think about that, like when you become a 20 something year old, like young human,
Hmm.
and you start realizing like, okay, I have all of these traumas, and now I'm trying to figure out who I am. And now, like, how do I navigate that? Right.
Yeah. Yep. Ooh, so many layers. I mean, a couple of thoughts that are coming to mind are like, I was fortunate to teach seniors for years, and for many years also it was like for college credits, in my English class. And so, I had like we read some stuff that was like off the wall with a lot of different, I mean, really good stuff, right? But like, stuff that had sex in it and violence and different things like that. But yeah, I can't imagine like my teaching that to like ninth graders or middle schoolers,
Oh no.
some of that stuff. Um, but shoot, I'm like I lost the other question I was gonna follow with. But when it comes to kind of your experience, I think along the same lines of being a school leader, a teacher, a mother. So, the characters and after parties, right, are navigating queerness, class, diaspora, assimilation, right, into dominant US society with, just lots and lots of honesty. You even described like some like painful how honest some of it is. And I'm wondering, in your mind, like how did Anthony's identities, especially as a queer Cambodian American man, influence your understanding of like, if at all, influence your understanding of like what it means to lead, to teach, to parent, with cultural integrity?
Yeah. Um, the best that I can explain this, and I've been thinking a lot about queerness and how it with shows up in schools and also in our curriculum and identities and various stakeholders in the school.
Mhm.
And I think around every June, like this as an educator, every June
Yo,
we get the anti-gay, homophobic,
it is so whack. I
just bullshit,
hate
right?
it.
Hey, well, the thing is like because of my brother, I get very like, I'm professional. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm professional. I build relationships with my families. I show up as a leader. I show up for my staff. But one of the things that I cannot, this is it's one of my triggers. It's one of my non-negotiables.
Hmm.
Like I will not tolerate homophobicness. Like I will
Yeah.
not tolerate it on my campus.
Yeah.
And I think like my brother is a big part of that,
Yep.
a big part of that. And he didn't come out to us until he was 19.
Mm,
And I also like, I mean, like so much guilt. Like for me, when he came out, he called me on the phone, and he had told me that he was gay, and that
mm,
he had known for a long time that he was
mhm,
gay and that he has a
mhm,
boyfriend. um and I cried. I
mm,
like cried when he told me.
mm,
um like I could still remember like where I was, like the time of the day,
mm,
what the room looked like, like when he had told me. And I remember thinking like, I feel so sad because I don't think that people, especially my parents, would accept you. And
mm.
that's why I felt sad, right?
Yeah, that's
I
heartbreaking.
felt sad of how like this secret that he had, and how like he couldn't express himself for so
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
And like all the courage he had to have in order to let us know.
Hmm.
After that, I saw him like really blossom in terms
Oh,
of
that's
just
beautiful.
like how, like even the way he dressed, how happy
Mm,
he was.
yeah.
Um he I mean he also, my brother was also bipolar. So he was like battling his bipolarness during that
Mhm.
time too.
Okay.
Um, and I think like a lot, I think like at that time too, in during, well, I have to think. I think he came out to me when in 2014 or 13. So from then, he was a sophomore in at Stanford, I believe. And so from that point to when he passed away, he
Mm-hmm.
had graduated from Stanford, went to Syracuse, got his MFA, wrote the book,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think like what I'm trying to get to is like addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was an addict. I think that he used it to cope sometimes, like a lot of people do. A lot
Absolutely.
of people do. And especially in the pandemic when everybody was isolated.
Yeah.
And so, like, you hear stories of people dying from fentanyl or
Mm-hmm.
whatever in San Francisco.
Yep.
And I think, like, that also drives me around, like, how do you, with my own kids, with the students in my building, how do you protect them and interrupt homophobicness, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
it's like otherwise you get, people choose to cope in like certain ways,
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
unhealthy ways.
Uh-huh. And I know that, you and I have thought about these things for a long, long time, particularly, working in predominantly BIPOC, raised working class, schools for years and years and thinking about, yeah, like you said, coping, the impacts of trauma, you know, and how, whether folks are conscious or unconscious of those impacts and yeah, just like, in what material resources, you know, spiritual resources, emotional resources, or lack thereof exist to like process and deal with them. And, I think we're both used to in our work being under-resourced, right? Like
Oh yeah.
not having enough, to ensure that every single person is resourced in the ways they need and deserve. And I would say that's the case for all people working in public education today. Um, but I, I really, really love and appreciate the ways that, um, you know, people like your brother, like artists, right, are able to bring out like this honest expression that helps, everybody that comes into contact with it in different ways, different forms at different times, like to do their own wrestling with, the pieces that they connect to around these like really hard things that it takes a lot of courage to look at. I also think you know, like I love stand-up comedy, and I think that like humor is like one of the most wonderful ways to like look at hard things at times. Like they say, was that Mary Poppins? A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, um, yeah.
It was funny too because Anthony had like a stint in New York City. And I had gone like I think in 2014 or something or 2013, I had gone to visit him in New York, and he was just like couch search surfing from like couch to couch, and he was
Mm,
doing stand up at the time. And I remember going to one of his uh stand up pieces, and I I could I could not sit through it.
oh
I
wow.
think like in the same sense, no, but I think it was more around like in the same sense that it took me so long to read the book.
Hmm,
It's just like sometimes when, like as you said, like sometimes when the mirror is held up to you,
hmm,
it's really hard to look at it.
yeah.
And so I think a lot of times people do use that humor. I use it all the time. And I think Anthony, like growing up, he loved absurdity.
Hmm.
Like Curb Your Enthusiasm was one of his favorite
Laid.
favorite shows,
Off the
and
hook.
I hate that show. Like I
Yeah.
can't stand it. Like when I watched it with him, I was just like, this is so absurd. Like I
That's
just can't, like
yeah.
it's just cringy and
Yeah.
it hurts my insides when I watch
Yeah.
it, and
Why do you think it is that y'all, as like, siblings like have around that absurdity of, like, have different views on it?
there's a lot of things that we really like that we align with and we love. And I think like the best way to explain it is like the um the parallel storyline that is in human development with him texting his sister,
Mm,
and then he's like, although it's not like the main part of the story, but to me it was like a parallel to his life, right? Like he's this 20 something year old, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's just kind of like having fun with like a fling in the summertime in San Francisco. And he's having like all this gay sex, like three-way sex and stuff.
mhm,
And his sister is like this this uh really high powered, motivated, goal oriented person that's like work, 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 right? um and I think around like he and I have like very different lives, at least
mm,
when he passed away.
yeah.
Like I'm cis, I live a very, whether I like it or not, but I live a very suburban middle class life.
Hmm.
It's just
Hmm.
like I got three kids, I have a dog and a home
Yeah.
and a husband, like a white husband,
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
I go to work, and like I cook my own meals every day.
Hmm.
And then my brothers is just, I think, like, but I that's him though, like he
Sure.
loves that absurdity, like that, like let me just take this storyline and let me just show you how ridiculous it is, like how
Hmm.
ridiculous, but like we love each other and we're always texting each other, but she doesn't understand my life. And then I'm living this life, but then when I'm at home or I'm with her, it's like totally different.
Hmm.
And a lot of the stories are like that. um
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing. I'm like thinking about how I'm thinking about, like I think a lot about um siblings. Because I have a younger brother. Not super young, it's like 2 years in between us. But just like how, there's so many things that we're aligned on, but also there's so many ways we're super different, right? And we're both
yeah.
like cis het, men. Um, but like,
Do
yeah,
you believe in birth order?
what do you mean?
Like, do you believe in birth order? Like, like
Like the
first child,
oldest should have more
middle
siblings or
child.
something like that, or
Yeah.
no. I mean, no, I mean, I think that a philosophy symbol that's meant a lot to me in this last decade or so is yin yang. I've gotten to do a lot
Okay.
of like looking at, you know, Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, things like that. And so, I think that I say that just because I think that there's really hard, challenging, and also wonderful things about being, in this case, my case, like the oldest, sibling, and also in being the youngest. Like I just see there's like different ways that I took on um caretaking or like thinking about like, things that are happening around in ways that like that doesn't mean my brother's not like caring person, but just like in ways I notice that he doesn't, in my perception, doesn't have as much kind of like anxiety around. And so I'm like happy for him. And also at times I'm like, man, I wish I didn't, have this, this, like carry this, and like wish I felt a little more free around these things like I see my brother. And I know that I don't know, for example, that he probably, sees things that he struggles with and wrestles with that I don't, right? Because of our, our placement in that. But I was kind of thinking about like, and you were even speaking to it, just like like the intersectionality of your and your brother's identities and like your being, cis het and a woman versus him being, queer and a man and like male bodied and like and the youngest and like what were, some of the things that were like frankly easier for him as a male bodied person who was also younger and like what were pressures that were on you as like being older and a woman, but then also what are, ways that are things that are really hard for him being younger and being queer, but I know it's a lot. That's just kind of where my mind was going in that
I mean,
question.
I think like I agree with you. I really do believe in birth order. I
Yeah,
think
tell me about
like
that. I want to know. I want to
I
know.
think like your first child. I mean, think about I am Maori. Like
Uh,
like Oliver, Charlie. So Oliver, Charlie, and Henry are my three. And Oliver is very perfectionist. Like has to have things like he used to just line everything up
hmm,
in color order, line all his cars up in color order.
hmm.
Um all lined up on the carpet and um very much me and Charlie just a wrecking ball. Just like
Yo,
Charlie's a
my
wrecking
yachty is
ball.
a wrecking ball too.
Exactly, exactly. Like Charlie's just a wrecking ball. And he's so cute with his like Charlie's named after Anthony. So his name is Charlie Anthony Lamb
Oh,
or
okay.
Charles Anthony Lamb. And he looks like Anthony too. It's
Wow.
very, very weird.
Hmm,
Like just got that little bowl face, like bowl cut when he was little, and like the
hmm,
really Anthony used to have these really big eyes.
hmm.
But again, like I think back to the book, when I read the book, I it was kind of a not kind of, it was a love story to my parents and
Hmm,
me, And he
hmm.
says it in the back of the book.
Yeah,
It was a love letter to
yeah.
them. Um, and I mean, I think like what we didn't know is that because he seen like he always at home when he was little, even now, well, up until he passed, it like how you kind of when you at home with your dynamic of your family and you play this role, like this is the role that you play, right?
Yeah.
Like Charlie plays the wrecking ball role. Anthony was very much like younger baby child role.
Hmm,
And what I didn't know was that he was watching everything.
hmm.
Like he was watching everything, he was documenting everything, and he was drawing so many like themes and parallels and metaphors to write it in this book.
Yeah.
And like when I read it, it just, or when I finally was able to read it, it just like blew me away.
Hmm,
And I do want to talk about the last story, is it generational differences? Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
hmm.
Generational differences.
Yep.
Um, so that story is
This
true.
is the mama writing to her son, yeah.
Well, my mom didn't write doesn't write it, but
Oh,
yes.
I mean
Yeah, that
in the
one,
story.
yes. So my mom used to be a bilingual aide. So she worked at Cleveland Elementary
Oh my God.
as a
So
bilingual
this
aide.
was
They used to have
real.
a reading lab. Yeah, this is a real
Wow.
story.
Oh my God.
So they used to have a reading lab at that school. I remember when I was little, I used to go to that lab and it was so much fun. They had like all these books and they used to make books. And so we would make like these little books and you read it. And they did lots of read alouds, like small group work. It's basically like a intervention work. And the school, Cleveland Elementary, was known for having all of the refugee kids. So
Hmm.
they had a huge population of little Vietnamese and Cambodian kids
Mm-hmm.
at the school. That's why they had this language lab. And
Yeah.
then they had hired my mom and some other Cambodian and Vietnamese educators to come and support the reading teachers to talk, to basically translate for these kids, because all these little kids would come in, they came in and they didn't know any English.
Mm.
So my mom used to work at Cleveland, and in 1992, there was a man. I don't even remember his name. That's the thing. Like you don't get space in my brain, so I
Yeah.
don't remember. Like I don't remember his name, but the true story. He used to go to Cleveland, and he was white, and he did not like the fact that the school had a lot of little brown kids,
Yeah.
refugee brown kids. And so he took an AK-47 and shot up the playground.
Oh,
My
fuck.
mom was in the staff lounge at the time, and she was pregnant with my brother at the
Mhm.
time.
Wow.
Um and so I believe it was like six kids passed away, six kids and like some teachers.
We're killed. Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, and what the thing about my parents is like, so there's some, I don't know, all of y'all like uh genocide um survivors probably know this, but there's some parents who don't talk about genocide at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's parents who talk about genocide all the time. My
Mm-hmm.
parents are the ones that talk about genocide all the time, like
Mm.
everything. Like you could
Yeah.
just be like,
Yeah.
eating dinner,
Yeah.
and then my dad will be like, "Well, we didn't have any food in the genocide."
Uh,
It's like, okay,
yeah.
thanks, Dad. But I like, right now, I just want to like focus on eating my tofu, so I don't
Mm.
forget.
Yeah.
But my parents, they were the ones that talked all the time, and so from like a really young age, my mom would talk about the fact that like this shooter like shot up the school.
Yeah.
And can you imagine like
I
9-year old you, like can you imagine telling that to Aya? Like
yeah.
seriously, could
I
you imagine
mean,
telling her that?
well, I'm just thinking about, like your parents and their generation, like surviving, genocide, coming here, right, for quote unquote safety, right? And then this like white supremacist fucking piece of garbage,
But
doing this horrific
that's
thing.
that's that's the fucked up thing about that, right? Is that like you survive. So what's really fucked up was my mom, she remembers this woman. My mom had worked there for 10 years, right?
Okay.
From like 1991 to like maybe 2000, I think.
Yeah.
And she remembers this woman who came to school every day, wait, like at dismissal, waiting for her child. Her child died in the shooting. So,
Oh my
and
God. And so she
so like
continued to come after
she
after the
continued to
child died.
come every day. So
Ah,
like that's the thing. Like, how fucked up is that? Like you survive war, you survive genocide, you survive starvation, and then you come to America, you come to the safe place, and your child dies. And I think that same thing, like what breaks my heart is that same thing happened to my parents, right? They came to America, they brought us here, they worked so hard, and then my brother dies.
yeah.
So that's like another thing around see, that part makes me cry because like I
Mhm.
can't imagine leaving my kids. Like
Oh my
you're not,
God.
or
Unthinkable.
my kids leaving me. Like you're not supposed to see your child die, right? You're
Yeah.
not supposed to.
1000%.
And that's the part that hits hard for me. But anyway.
Absolutely. And just like, man, like, it's like I can't even wrap my head around the fact that Anthony was in your mama's belly when this is happening, right? Like it makes me think of are you familiar with Gabor Mate?
What was that?
Are you familiar with Gabor Mate?
Mm-mm.
So Gabor Mate is a Canadian physician who's written a lot that, his work I've liked, I've learned a lot from around um, trauma and healing. But he essentially was a refugee from, I think, Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a lot older than us. But his mother, he was in his mother's belly when like the Nazi Holocaust of Jewish folks was happening,
Mm,
and they fled and landed in Canada. But he talks about his different studies of the ways that even like his mother's cortisol levels, during that, incredibly traumatic time impacted him as a baby in her belly, right?
yeah.
And just like
I
how,
mean, that's true too. Like, you don't even know what traumas get passed down
Mhm.
just from, prenatal care or lack of prenatal care, um, stress levels, not taking care of yourself, not addressing the traumas that you have.
Mhm.
And I think like that's why, like back to the question that you had asked around like Cambodian Americans, like what could they take from this? Like that's another piece around my parents talked about it all the time. Like I knew about the genocide. We watched my dad had us watch The Killing Field, had us watch
Mm.
like all these things, like taught us our history. My
Sure.
dad's also like a history buff, like he really
Mm.
likes history.
Mhm.
Um and we grew up that way.
Mhm.
There are people that I meet all the time who their parents never talked about it. They didn't even know that this had happened
Mm.
in
Wow.
their family's
Yeah.
history, right?
Mhm.
And I think like that's another piece around like if your family isn't forthcoming with like the stories that came out of the genocide, when you read this book, it's almost as if like, okay, like I can get healing from that, you
Wow.
know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you've touched on a lot of this, right? But grief, legacy, storytelling, it's so tightly woven in this book. And so, my question for you, two-part is, what has it meant to you to see see your family? What has it meant to you and your family to see Anthony's words live on in this way? How has it shaped your own relationship to remembrance, to voice, and like you said, healing?
Oops, sorry, that's Slack. um, I think I think about if he had lived,
Hmm.
like it's bittersweet because I think that he would be so famous. Like he already was like up and coming. I mean, you did the Google search on him. Like he was just like the next big thing, right? Like
Mm.
everybody, there was so much buzz like when the book
Mm.
first came out. And there's still like buzz in it. Did you know like I was reading this book, this children's book called The ABCs of Asian American like history, the ABCs of Asian American history or something like that. It's like a
Mhm.
children's book.
Okay.
And it's like A is for,
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Asian American,
I've seen
stuff
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Did you know that they had his book in it? Like
Wow, that's amazing.
Anthony's book was in it was like there was a nod to his book
Yep.
in that book. And I was
Wow.
like, oh. And so I didn't know that. Yeah, and I was reading it and I was like, this is crazy. This is
Mm.
crazy. And
Mm.
so like I just get that all the time where people like all over the place will just like stop me or like send me pictures. Like they'll be in the bookshops and they'll send me pictures of the books in the bookshop and things like that.
Mm.
But it's in a way it's like we're lucky that he was able to publish something before he passed,
Hmm.
and we have a piece of our history published
Yeah,
in time.
absolutely.
And also it being such a like big deal for our Asian American community.
Mm,
Like, you
thousand
know,
percent.
and something that has shaped kind of like the literature, like the literacy world, like the Asian American literacy world, right?
Yep.
And so that to me is mind blowing. Like,
Yeah.
that's really, really cool. And I really wish he was here. Like, I'm telling you, I cannot tell you how many times I don't want to be the one that has to talk about it, right? Like, I shouldn't be sitting here talking to you about this. Like, if he was alive, I would have been like, yeah, Colin, let's I'll hook you up with my brother. Like, he'll come and do the podcast, right? Like, I shouldn't
Mm,
be talking about his book. I didn't write this. It's not my words. It might be like some of my story in my past, but it's not my words, right?
mm.
And so it hurts, but it's also like incredibly proud of him. I can't even remember the question that you had asked, but it's like,
Yeah.
know,
Well, I can bring back, so this is a quote that's coming to mind from, so much of this, really, you know, beautiful insights that you're sharing. But I remember there's um, a organizer, activist, author who's in the Bay, who I've met a couple times, don't know super well, but his name is Kazu Haga. And what he says is, he says, if we carry intergenerational trauma, and we do, then we also carry intergenerational wisdom. It's in our genes and in our DNA. And I bring it up just because, it's just so apparent, the wisdom that exists in this book, but also the wisdom that, that you hold, and so much of like just like what you shared today, just is of immense value. And I know, I agree with you, in your kind of you're reflecting on just like wishing that, it was, that he was the one that was able to talk about, his book and just enjoy all of his success. And I
yeah.
also just
I love
wanted to,
that quote.
yeah, I just wanted to say like just how grateful I am um, for our time together and
Yeah.
talking about this today. And my last question before we start kind of closing things out is, if there's maybe like, one moment in this book that maybe you return to or think about, you know, a lot, and particularly one that maybe kind of captures the heart of who Anthony was, what he stood for. I'm wondering kind of what moment in the book maybe that comes to mind for you and why.
Yeah. Um, I have multiple copies of the book, but I have one copy that I have written up, like I have all my notes in it, and I can't find that book.
Oh, okay. No worries. No
So
worries.
sorry for like trying to find this quote, but
No
there's
apologies.
a quote um on his gravestone,
Mm,
and it's at the end of it's at the end of one of the stories, and I think it encapsulates him very perfectly. In the beginning of the podcast, when we first started talking, I said Molly, 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 but actually the story is Saray, Somali, Somali, Saray.
mm,
And then that book, I mean, sorry, in that story, it's about reincarnation, right? Because like
yep.
Molly finds out that she's like reincarnated, and like she's haunted by the ghost of Somali or whatever.
Mm,
And or actually Saray's haunted by the ghost of Somali. And in the end of the story, it says, part of me wonders if the new generation should be allowed some freedom from the dreams of the dead, but I'm
mm.
also tired and I don't see any other path. I need the dreams to stop. For once, I will preserve the self I want. And so I
Wow.
think like it kind of, that quote kind of talks, it's like a nod to like what you had said earlier around like, you can have like, if you have intergenerational trauma, you also have wisdom, right? And like it I have I cannot tell you how many apocalyptic dreams I have,
Mm,
like all the time.
mm,
I don't know why. I didn't grow up in the genocide. I none of that happened to me.
mhm,
But I have nightmares about being in a apocalyptic society.
Yeah.
And so like when Donald Trump was voted in twice, like that to me is like my worst nightmare
Hmm.
because it's like you're everything that I represent is being cut down,
Yeah.
like being a woman, being a person of color, having loved ones who are queer, like being liberal, being an educator, everything cut, cut, cut,
Mhm.
cut, cut,
Mhm.
right? And like I think about like how your history sometimes haunts you.
Mm.
Even if it's not your history, if it's shared history, still haunts you.
Mhm.
And sometimes you just want it to like not like just
Yeah.
I just want it to not like just
Yeah.
stop.
Sometimes you gotta watch The Office and read some fantasy romance.
Exactly. And then there are times like you have to have like these cathartic sessions, right? Like we're
Yep.
having a cathartic session.
Yep.
That's like a conversation that like changes your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
Um and then sometimes you just, I just want to preserve the self I want. I just want peace.
Yeah. Yeah. And you deserve it, dear sister. And I'm thinking about like this combination of like all my favorite artists, but also like, stuff that I've read as far as research with regards to, processing trauma, even via like talks like this, actually, like you said, change brain chemistry around it and like people's ability to be able to understand it. And I say all that just because I'm like, I can only imagine like the amount of healing that your brother was able to do through his writing as he processed all of this stuff that I imagine before he wrote the book, there was a lot of like unsettled things. And so I don't know, it's like I guess what's coming to mind is just feeling a lot of gratitude for knowing knowing that I don't know how much healing I imagine happened for your brother as he created this work of art. Um, But I don't know. I was wondering if you had any last thoughts on anything around that before I ask you these last questions.
Um, I think you I will never know, like I will never know what he was thinking before he passed, right? Like
Mhm.
I don't know. What I do know is that like after he wrote the book, he was really settling into himself.
Mm,
Like he was almost 30. He died just shy of his 30th birthday.
yeah.
He's forever 29.
Mm,
Um I think that like definitely the book, like writing the book probably was a form of healing for him. It was a love letter to my family, my
mm,
parents,
yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
my grandma,
Hmm.
it my aunts, I
Hmm.
think that it was a way for him also to express his queerness
Yep.
and the multiple identities that he had, you know, being a son, being a lover, being a teacher. He also taught for a little bit, and he had like these he used to teach at this bougie San Francisco private school.
Mm,
He used to teach English at
okay.
yeah, he used to teach English. He did it for like I don't know, like a year or something like that.
Okay.
Um, like between Stanford and Syracuse. So
Mm,
he was teaching, and if you know my brother, I mean, much like his book, he has very, very dark humor, super
yeah.
dark humor. He uses humor as a way, to like I do to like get through your trauma. And he he told me once that he said that this private school has a harpist on the lawn. And I was like, you're playing, like you're joking. There's no harpist. You don't have a harpist on the lawn. What are you talking
Wow.
about? He's like, no, no, for real, Sam. Like, there's like this school is so bougie that they have a harpist. They have a person who
Wow.
plays the harp on the lawn. I was like, no, like, no, like that's stupid. But I say that to say like I don't even know why I said that, but I think that he was like coming into himself, right? Like he was finally getting to a place of self-love.
Mm,
Um and so it's unfortunate, like, it's unfortunate he's forever 29.
mm, yeah. Well, thought I'm having is appreciate, in the very beginning when we first started our conversation that, when I was asking you, for correct pronunciation of his middle name, Visna, and that you told me that it means lucky or fortunate, and I was the immediate thought I had, Sam, was that he was fortunate, lucky to have you as a sister. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
again,
lucky to have him as a brother.
yeah, and
And
so,
in like many, many ways, because I now own the rights to his book.
mm.
So, you know, that's really dark humor and it's
No, I'm like, my thought was like, as you said. Man.
very, very dark humor. But I miss him every day. There's
Okay.
not a day I don't think about him. And I'm really glad that people find healing from reading the book.
Mhm.
And not just Cambodian, like I said, not just Cambodian Americans,
Yeah,
but like a lot of different people.
yeah,
So many different people.
absolutely. Well, as we begin to close things out, two of my favorite things in the world are books and music. And so, this is a question I ask all my guests as we close out. What is a song or a musical artist or an album that you would pair with this book and why?
I wish that well, there's a couple songs. I wish that I can have it like just straight up to share with you. But the second book is called Songs on Endless Repeat.
Oh, wait, sorry,
And
this is a
so
this is a song or a book?
no, the second book.
Oh, no, no. So the question is, what is a song or
I
a
know.
musical artist or album you would pair with this book?
No, I know. I
Oh, okay, okay,
know. I
okay.
know. I'm saying this book is called Songs on Endless Repeat. There is a song that he used to play over and over and over
Oh,
and
okay,
over
okay.
and over. Yeah, so he used to drive it's really funny. My mom's he used to drive my mom's car, that it was my car for a long time.
Uh-huh.
It's just like this 2000 Honda Accord. It was like purple.
That's an
Purple.
Asian ass car. I love it.
Yeah. Purple, and it's a boat. Like if you ever drive a Honda Accord, it's a freaking boat.
Yeah.
Like the car is so, it's like a really big sedan.
Yeah. Or did you
uh
say a 2000?
2000,
I had a
yeah.
black 98 Accord.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you drove, yeah, you know what it's like to drive a Honda Accord.
Yeah.
um and yeah, so when he had passed to that, yeah, that the person who bought the car from him, like, packed up all, like, this is the type of person my brother was. He sold the car to his friend, but he didn't clean it out. So then when he passed, his friend mailed me a box, and I open up the box and it's all his shit
Oh,
from the
wow.
car.
Wow.
Yeah, and so like one of them was like, like CDs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and like one of then I can't remember the song. That's the thing. I got like mom brain, but
It's
there's a
okay.
song that he had played over. Oh, um, yes, it's Range Life by Pavement. So that reminds me of the book, and it just reminds me, one of my friends, my best friends, Whitney, when she read the book, she was like, this is the epitome of the summertime.
Mm,
Like it hits really different for different people, right?
sure.
But like, how like sometimes like when you read something, or like when you listen to a song or a story or a movie, and it just reminds you of something. For
Mm-hmm.
her, it reminded her of like the summertime in
Mm,
Stockton. The book
Mm.
reminded her. And that
Wow.
song also just reminds me of driving in that Honda Accord.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the other one is he has on his arm, he has a tattoo, and it's right here. It's a Cambodian artist. I think her name is, you could tell, Colin, that I'm really bad with names.
It's all
So
good. You're doing great. You're doing great.
I don't know. But yeah, he's got a Cambodian artist right here. And one of her songs too is something that I think about. I think her name is Pen Ra or something. I don't know.
All
But yeah,
good.
there you
All
go.
good. Thank you. Thank you. And then finally, as we close out, if you could please complete the following sentence. People should read After Parties by Anthony Visna So because dot dot dot.
People should read the book After Parties by Anthony Visna. So if you want to cry and laugh and heal at the same time,
Hey, ping, 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 ping. I love
but
it.
not in like a eat, pray, love type of way, like a white
Yeah,
girl type of way.
yeah.
Like if you want to do that as like a person of color, like BIPOC person type of
Hmm.
way.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Sam, this has been such a gift, such a pleasure. Yeah, just thank you so much for the gift of your time. Yeah, and for talking through, rest in power, paradise to your brother, huge love and respect to your family, and thank you for being such an incredible caretaker in Richmond, California, and of my child and of so many other children. Thank you again.
Yeah.
And that
Thank you for having
is
me.
my pleasure. And that is our time. Thank you all so much out there for listening. We hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and we hope you enjoyed the flight. Peace.
Bye.